Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Vanessa Cecilia from class 6A1. So this time I will read some short story. The title is You're Ugly Too by Lorrie. You had to get out of them occasionally, those Illinois towns with the funny names Paris, Oblong, and Normal. Once, when the Dow Jones dipped to 100 points, a local paper boasted the banner headline, Normal Man Marries Oblong Woman. They knew what was important. They did. But you had to get out once in a while, even if it was just across the border, the terrace out for a movie. Outside of Paris, in the middle of a large field, was a scatter of brick buildings, a small liberal arts college by the improbable name of Hilldale Versailles. Zoe Hendricks had been teaching American history there for 3 years. She loved the Revolution and beyond. To freshmen and sophomores, and every third semester she had the senior seminar for majors, and although her student evaluations had been slipping in the last year and a half. Professor Hendrick is often late for class and usually arrives with a cup of hot chocolate, which she offers the class sips of. Generally, the department of 9 men was pleased to have here. They felt she added some needed feminine touch to the corridors, that faint trace of obsession and sweet, the light fast clicking of wheels. Plus, they had a sex discrimination suit, and the dean had said, well, it was time. The situation was not easy for her, they know. Once, at the start of last semester, she had skipped into her lecturer while singing, Getting to Know You, all of it. At the request of the dean, for chairman had called her into his office, but didn't ask her for an explanation, not really. He asked her how she was and then smiled in an avuncular way. She said, fine. And he studied the way she said it, her front teeth catching on the inside of her lower lip. She was almost pretty, but her face showed the strain and ambition of always having been close but not quiet. There was too much effort with the eyeliner, and her earrings, worn, no doubt, for the drama her features lacked, were a little frightening, jutting out the sides of her head like antennae. I'm going out of my mind, said Zoe to her younger sister, Evan, in Manhattan. Professor Hendrick seems to know the entire soundtrack to The King and I. Is this a story? Zoe phoned her every Thursday. You always say that, said Evan. But then you go on your trips and vacation, and then you settle back into things, and then you're quiet for a while, and then you say you're fine, you're busy, and then after a while you say you are going crazy again, and you start all over. Evan was a part-time food designer for photo shoots. She cooked vegetables in green dye. She propped up beef stew with a bed of marbles and shopped for new kinds of silicone sprays and plastic ice cup. She thought her life was okay. She was living with her boyfriend of 3 years, who was independently wealthy and had an amusing little job in a book publishing. They were 5 years out of college, and they lived in a luxury midtown high-rise with a balcony and access to a pool. It's not the same as having your own pool, Evan was always saying, as if to let Zoe know that, as with Zoe, there were still things Evan had to do without. Illinois. It makes me sarcastic to be here, said Zoe on the phone. She used to insist it was irony, sometimes gently layered and sophisticated, something alien to the Midwest, but her students kept calling it sarcasm. Something they felt qualified to recognize, and now she had to agree. It was not irony. What is your perfume? A student once asked her. Rum freshener, she said. She smiled, but he looked at her unnerved. Her students were by and large good Midwestern species with estrogen from large quantities of meat and eggs. They shared their parents' suburban values. Their parents had given them things. They were complacent. They had been purchased. They were armed with a healthy prejudice about anything historical or geographic. They seemed actually to know very little about anything, but they were good-natured about it. All the stats in the East are so tiny and huge and bunched up, complained one of her undergraduates the week she was lecturing on. The turning point of independence, the battle at Saratoga. Professor Hendricks, you are from Delaware originally, right? The student asked her. Maryland, correct Zoe. Oh, he said, waving his hand dismissively. New England. Her articles, chapter toward a book called Hearing the One about uses of humor in the American presidents, were generally well received, though they come slowly for her. She liked her pieces to have something from every time of day in them. She didn't trust things written in the morning only, so she reread and rewrote painstakingly. No part of the day, its mood, its light was allowed to dominate. She hung on to a page for a year, sometimes revising at all hours until the entirety of the day had registered there. The job she had before the one at Hildale Versailles had been at a small college in New Geneva, Minnesota, land of the dying shopping mall. Everyone was so brown there that brunettes were often presumed to be from foreign countries. Just because Professor Henrik is from Spain doesn't give her the right to be negative about our country. There was a generally emphasis on cheerfulness. In New Geneva, you weren't supposed to be critical or complain. You were not supposed to notice that the town had overextended and that its shopping was very raggedy and going under. You were never to say you were not fine, thank you. And yourself, you were supposed to be Heidi. You were supposed to lock goat milk up the hills and not think twice. Heidi did not complain. Heidi did not do things like stand in front of the new IBM photocopier saying, if this fucking Xerox machine breaks on me on one more time, I'm going to slit my wrist. But now in her second job, in her fourth year of teaching in the Midwest, Zoe was discovering something she never suspected she had, a crusty edge, brittle and pointed. Once she had pampered her students, singing them songs, letting them call her at home even, and ask personal questions, but now she was losing sympathy. They were beginning to seem different. They were beginning to seem demanding and spoiled. You act, said one of her senior seminar students at a scheduled conference, like your opinion is worth more than everyone else in the class. Zoe's eye widened. I'm the teacher, she said. I do get paid to act like that. She narrowed her gaze at the student, who was wearing a big leather bow in her hair like a cowgirl on the TV ranch show. I mean, otherwise everybody in the class would have little offices and office hour. Sometimes Professor Henricks will take up the class time just talking about movies she's seen. She stared at the student some word, then added, I bet you like that. Maybe I sound winny to you, said the girl, but I simply want my history major to mean something. Well, there's your problem, said Zoe, and with a smile she showed the student to the door. I like your bow, she said. Zoe left for the mail for the postman, that handsome blue jay, and when she got a real letter with a real full-price stamp from someplace else, she took it to bed with her and read it over and over. She also watched television until all hours and had her set in the bedroom. A bedside. Professor Hendricks has said critical things about Vaughan Hall, the Catholic religion, and the whole state of Illinois. It is unbelievable. At Christmas time, she gave $20 tips to the mailman and to Jerry, the only cabbie in town, whom she had gotten to know from all her rides to and from the Terre Haute airport, and who, since he realized such rides were an extravagance, often gave her cut rates. "I'm flying in to visit you this weekend," announced Joe. "I was hoping you would," said Evan. "Charlie and I are having a party for Halloween. It will be fun. I have a costume already. It's a bonehead. It's this thing that looks like a giant bone going through your head." "Great," said Evan. It is great. All I have is my moon mask from last year and the year before. I'll probably end up getting married in it." "Are you and Charlie getting married?" Joe felt slightly alarmed. No, not immediately." "Don't get married." "Why?" "Just not yet. You're too young." "You only say that because you're 5 years older than I, and you're not married." "I'm not married?" "Oh my God," said Joe. "I forgot to get married." Joe had been out with 3 men since he'd come to Hilldale for sales. One of them was a man in the municipal bureaucracy who had fixed a parking ticket she'd brought in to protest and then asked her out for coffee. At first she thought he was amazing. At last, someone who did not want to Heidi. But soon she came to realize that all men deep down wanted Heidi. Heidi with cleavage, Heidi with outfits, the parking ticket bureaucrat soon became tired and intermittent. One cool fall day in his lazy, impractical convertible, when she asked him what was wrong, he said, "You would not be ill served by new clothes, you know." She wore a lot of gray-green corduroy. She had been under the impression that it brought out her eyes. Those side stars she flicked and from her sleeve. "Did you have to brush that off in the car?" he said, driving. He glanced down at his own pectorals, giving first the left then the right a quick survey. He was wearing a tight shirt. "Excuse me?" He slowed down at an amber light and frowned. "Couldn't you have picked it up and thrown it outside?" "The ant? It might have bitten me." "I mean, what difference does it make?" "It might have bitten you?" "Huh? How ridiculous. Now it's going to lay eggs in my car." The second guy was rather lankier, though not insensitive to certain paintings and songs, but too often the things he'd do or say would startle her. Once in a restaurant, he stole the garnishes of her dinner plate and waited for her to notice. When she didn't, he finally thrust his fist across the table and said, "Look!" And when he opened it, there was her parsley sprig and her orange slice crumpled to a wad. Another time, he described to her his recent trip to the Lorrie. "And there I was in the front of the Lacroix, the virtue of Dante. And everyone else had wandered off, so I had my own private audience with it. All those agonized shades splayed in every direction, and there's this motion in the painting that starts at the bottom, swirling and building up into the red fabric of Dante's hood, swirling out into the distance where you see these orange flames." He was breathless in the telling. She found this touching and smiled in encouragement. "A painting like that," he said, shaking his head, "it just makes you shit." "I have to ask you something," said Evan. "I know every woman complains about not meeting men, but really, on my shots I meet a lot of men. And they're not all gay either." She paused. "Not anymore?" you asking? The third guy was a political science professor named Murray Peterson, who liked to go out on double dates with colleagues whose wives he was attracted to. Usually the wives would consent to flirt with him. Under the table sometimes there was food, tea, and once there was even tea. Joe and the husband would be left to their food, staring into their water glasses, chewing like goats. "Oh, Murray," said one wife, who had never finished her master's in physical therapy and wore great clothes. "You know, I know everything about you. Your birthday, your license plate number. I have everything memorized, but then there's the kind of mind I have. Once at a dinner party, I amazed the host by getting up and saying goodbye to every single person there, first and last names." "I knew a dog who could do that," said Zoe, with her mouth full. Murray and the wife looked at her with vexed and rebuking expression, but the husband seemed suddenly twinkling and amused. Zoe swallowed. It was a talking lap, and after about 10 minutes of listening to the dinner conversation, this dog knew everyone's name. You could say, "Take this knife to Murray Peterson," and it would. "Really?" said the wife, frowning, and Murray Peterson never called again. "Are you seeing anyone?" said Evan. "I'm asking for a particular reason. I'm not just being like Mom. I'm seeing my house. I'm tending to it when it waits, when it cries, when it throws up." Zoe had bought a mean green ranch house near campus, though now she was thinking that maybe she shouldn't have. It was hard to live in a house. She kept wandering in and out of the rooms, wondering where she had put things. She went downstairs into the basement for no reason at all except that it amused her to own a basement. It also amused her to own a tree. Her parents in Maryland had been very pleased that one of their children had at last been able to afford real estate, and when she closed on the house they sent her flowers with a congratulation card. Her mother had even UPS'd a box of old decorating magazines saved over the years. Photographs of beautiful rooms her mother used to moon over, since there never had been any money to redecorate. It was like getting her mother's pornography, that box, inheriting her rolled open fantasies, the endless wish and this that had been her life. But to her mother it was a rite of passage that pleased her. "Maybe we'll get some ideas from this," she had written, and when Zoe looked at the photographs at the bold and beautiful living room, she was filled with longing, ideas, and ideas of longing. Right now, Zoe's house was rather empty. The previous owner had wallpapered around the furniture, leaving strange gaps and silhouettes on the walls. And though he had not done much about that yet, she had bought furniture, then taken it back, furnishing and unfurnishing, repairing and shading like a wall. She had bought several plain pine chests to use as love seats or both boxes, but they come to look to her more and more like children coffins. So she returned them, and she had recently bought an oriental rug for the living room with China symbols on it she didn't understand. The sales girl had kept saying she was sure they meant peace and eternal life, but when Zoe got to the ride home, she worried. What if they didn't mean peace and eternal life? What if they mean, say, Bruce Springsteen? And the more she thought about it, the more and became convinced she had a rug that said Bruce Springsteen, and so she returned that too. She had also bought a little baroque mirror for the front entryway, which she had been told by Murray Peterson would keep away evil spirits. The mirror, however, tended to frighten her, startling her with an image of a woman she never recognized. Sometimes she looked poorer and plainer than she remembered. Sometimes shifty and dark. Most times she just looked to face you. You look like someone I knew. I know. She had been told twice in the last year by strangers in the restaurants in Terre Haute. In fact, sometimes she seemed not to have a look of her own or any look whatsoever, and it began to amuse her that her students and colleagues were able to recognize her at all. How did they know? When she walked into a room, how did she look so that they know it was she? Like this? Did she look like this? And so she returned the mirror. The reason I'm asking is that I know a man I think you should meet, said Evan. He's fun, he's tried, he's single. That's all I'm going to say. I think I'm too old for fun, said Zoe. She had a dark bristly hair in the bare chin, and she could feel it now with her finger. Perhaps when you had been without the opposite sex for too long, you began to resemble them. In an act of desperate infantation, you began to grow your own. I just won't come where my bonehead visit with Charlie Tropical Fish. Ask you about your vote shots. She thought about all the papers on our constitution, how it affects us. She was going to have to correct. She thought about how she was going in for ultrasound test on Friday because according to her doctor and her doctor's assistant, she had a large mysterious growth in her abdomen. Gallbladder, they kept saying, or ovarious or call it. You guys practice medicine? Asked Zoe aloud. After they had left the room, once as a girl, she brought her dog to a vet who had told her, well, either your dog has worms or cancer or else it was hit by a car. She was looking forward to New York. Well, whatever, we'll just play it cool. I cannot wait to see you, huh? Don't forget your bonehead, said Evan. A bonehead you don't forget, said Sue. I suppose, said Evan. The ultrasound Zoe was keeping a secret even from Evan. I feel like I'm dying. Zoe had pointed just once on the phone. You're not lying, said Evan. You're just annoyed. Ultrasound, Zoe now said jokingly to the technical who put the cold jelly on her bare stomach. Does that sound like a really great stereo system or what? She had not had anyone make this much fuss over her bare stomach since her boyfriend in graduate school who had hovered over her whenever she felt ill. Waved his arms, pressed his hands upon her navel, and drawled evenly. Heal for thy baby Jesus' sake. Zoo would laugh and they would make love, but secretly hoping she would get pregnant. Later they would worry together and he would sink a cheek to her belly and ask whether she was late. Was she late? Was she sure she might be late? And when after 2 years she had not gotten pregnant, they took to quarreling and drifted apart. Okay, said the technical absently. The monitor was in place, and those insides come on the screen in all their gray and ribbony hallways. They were marbled in the finest gradations of black and white, like stone in an old church or picture of the moon. Do you suppose, she babbled at the technical, that the rise in infertility among so many couples in these countries is due to completely different species trying to reproduce? The technician moved the scanner around and took more pictures. Oh, one view in particular, on Zoe's right side, the technician became suddenly alert, the machine he was operating clicking away. Zoe started at the screen. That must be the growth you found there, suggested Zoe. I cannot tell you anything. said the technician rigidly. Your doctor will get the radiologist report this afternoon and will phone you then. I will be out of town. I'm sorry, said the technician. Driving home, Zoe looked in the rearview mirror and decided she looked. Well, how would one describe it? A little man? A little one? She doffed off the joke about the guy who visited his doctor and the doctor said, well, I'm sorry to say, you got 6 weeks to live. I want a second opinion, said the guy. You act like your opinion is worth more than everyone else in the class. You want a second opinion? Okay, said the doctor. You're ugly, too. She liked the joke. She thought it was terribly funny. She took a cab to the airport. Jerry, the cabbie, was happy to see her. Have fun in New York, he said, getting her back out of the trunk. He liked her, or at least he always acted as if he died. If he did, she called him Jer. Thanks, Jer. You know, I'll tell you a secret. I've never been to New York. I'll tell you two secrets. I've never been on a plane. And he waved at her sadly as she pushed her way in through the terminal door. Or an escalator, he shouted. The trick to flying safely, Zoe said, was to never buy a discount ticket and to tell yourself you had nothing to live for anyway, so that when the plane crashed, it was no big deal. Then, when it didn't crash, when you succeeded in keeping it aloft with your own worthlessness, all you had to do was take off, locate your luggage, and by the time a cab arrived, come up with a persuasive reason to go on living. You're here! Shrieked Evan over the doorbell. Before she even opened the door, then she opened it wide. Joe set her bags on the hall floor and hugged Evan hard. When she was little, Evan had always been affectionate and devoted. Joe had always taken care of her, advising, reassuring, until recently, when it seemed Evan had started advising and reassuring her. It startled Zoe. She suspected it had something to do with her being alone. It made people uncomfortable. How are you? I tear up on the plane. Besides that, I'm okay. Can I get you something? He let me take your suitcase. 6 on the plane. Ow. It was into one of the sickness bags, said Zoe, just in case Evan thought she'd lost it in the ice. I was very quiet. The apartment was spacious and bright, with a view all the way downtown along the east side. There was a balcony and sliding glass doors. I keep forgetting how nice this apartment is. 21st floor, doorman. Zoe could work her whole life and never have an apartment like this. So could Evan. It was Charlie's apartment. He and Evan lived in it like two kids in a dorm. Beer cans and clothes thrown around. Evan put Zoe's bag away from the mess over by the fish. Thanks. I'm so glad you are here, she said. Now what can I get you? Evan made them lunch, soup from a can and saltiness. I don't know about Charlie, she had after they had finished it. I feel like we've gone all sexless and middle-aged already. Said Zoe. She leaned back into Evan's sofa and stared out the window at the dark tops of the buildings. It seems a little unnatural to live up in the sky like this, like birds that out of some wrong-headed daring do had nested to hide. She nodded toward the lightened feast, thanks, and giggled. I feel like a bird, she said, with my own personal supply of fish. Evan sighed. He comes home and just sits out on the sofa watching Fuji football. He's wearing the basic cold cream and curlers. Curlers, if you know what I mean. Joe sat up readjusted the sofa cushions. What's fuzzy football? We have not gotten cable yet. Everything comes in fuzzy. Charlie just watches it that way. Yeah, that's a little depressing, Zoe said. She looked at her hands, especially the part about nothing having cable. This is how he gets into bed at night. Evan stood up to demonstrate. He whips all his clothes off, and when he gets to his underwear, he lets it drop to one ankle. Then he kicks up his leg and flips the underwear in the air and catches it. I, of course, watch from the bed. There's nothing else. There's just that. Maybe you should just get it over with and get married. Really? Yeah. I mean, you guys probably think living together like this is the best of both worlds. But Joe tried to sound like an older sister. An older sister was supposed to be the parent you could never have the hip, cool mom. But I have always found that as soon as you think you've got the best of both worlds, she thought now of herself alone in her house, of the thought-faced chichadas that flew around like little men at night and landed on her screen, staring off the size 14 shoes she placed at the doorstep to scare off intruders, of the ridiculous inflatable blow-up dolls someone had told her to keep propped up at the breakfast table. It can suddenly twice and become the worst of both worlds. Really? Evan was beaming. Oh, Zoe, I have something to tell you. Charlie and I are getting married. Really? Zoe felt confused. I didn't know how to tell you. Yeah, I guess the part about veggie football misled me a little. I was hoping you'd be my maid of honor, said Evan, waiting. Aren't you happy for me? Yes, said Zoe, and she began to tell Evan a story about an award-winning violinist at Helldale Versailles. How the violins had come home from a competition in Europe and taken up with a local man who made her go to all his summer softball games. Made her cheer for him from the stands with the wives until she later killed herself. But when Zoe got halfway through to the part about cheering at the softball game, she stopped. What? Said Evan. So what happened? Actually nothing, said Zoe lightly. She just really got into softball. You should have seen her. Zoe decided to go to a late afternoon movie, leaving Evan to chorus she needed to do before the party. I have to do them alone, really, she said a little tense after the violin story. Zoe thought about going to an art museum, but women alone in art museum had to look good. They always did, chic and serious, moving languidly with a great handbag. Instead, she walked down Truth Keeps by, passed on earring boutique called Stick It in Your Ear, past a hair salon called Dorian Gray. That was the funny thing about beauty. Zoe look it up in the yellow pages and you found 103 hostile with criticize with warning, but look up. Truth? Huh? There was nothing at all. Zoe thought about Evan getting married. Would Evan turn into Brother Pumpkin Eater's wife, Mrs. Eater? At the wedding, would she make Zoe wear some flashy lavender dress, identical with the other maids? Zoe had uniforms, had even in the first grade refused to join ELF girls because she didn't want to wear the same dress as everyone else. Now she might have to, but maybe she could distinguish it, hitch it up on one side with a clothespin, where surgical gauze at the waist, clipped to her bodice, one of those pins that say in loud letters, "Shit happens." At the movie Death by Number, she bought strands of red licorice to tuck and chew. She took a seat off to one side in the theater. She felt strangely self-conscious sitting alone and hoped for the place to darken fast. When it did and the coming attraction came on, she reached inside her purse for her glasses. They were in a baggie. Her Kleenex was also in a baggie. So were her pen and her aspirin and her means everything was in a baggie. This was what she'd become, a woman alone at the movie with everything in a baggie. At the Halloween party, there were about 2 dozen people. There were people with up heads and large hairy hands. There was someone dressed as a leprechaun. Leprechaun. There was someone dressed as a frozen dinner. Some men had both his two small daughters, a ballerina and a ballerina's sister, also dressed as a ballerina. There was a jiggle of sexy witches. Women dressed entirely in a black, beautifully made up and gelled. I hate those sexy witches. It's not in the spirit of Halloween, said Evan. Evan had abandoned the moon mask and dolled herself up as housefrau in curlers and an apron, a decision she now regretted. Charlie, because he liked a fish, because he owned fish and collected fish, had decided to go as a fish. He had fins and eyes on the sides of his head. "So, how are you? I'm sorry, I was not here when you first arrived." He spent the rest of his time cheating up the sexy witches. "Is not there something I can help you with here?" Zoe asked her sister. "You've been running yourself late." She rubbed her sister's arm gently as if she wished they were alone. "Oh God, not at all," said Evan, arranging stuffed mushrooms on a plate. The timer went off and she pulled another sheetful out of the oven. "Actually, you know what you can do." "What?" Zoe put on her bone hat. "Meet Earl. He's the guy I had in mind for you. When he gets here, just talk to him a little. He's nice, he's fun, he's going through a divorce." "I will try," Zoe groaned. "Okay, I will try." She looked at her watch. When Earl arrived, he was dressed as a naked woman, still wool glued strategically to a body stocking and large rubber breast protruding like hams. "So, this is Earl," said Evan. "Glad to meet you," said Earl, circling Evan to shake Zoe's hand. He stared at the top of Zoe's head. "Great bone," Zoe nodded. "Great teeth," she said. She looked past him, out the window at the city throne glittering up against the sky. People were saying the usual things. How it looked like jewels, like bracelets and necklaces unstrung. You could see the clock of the Con Ed building, the orange and gold Kipate Empire State, the Chrysler like a rocket ship dreamed up in a depression. Far west you could glimpse Astor Plaza, with its flying with roof like a non-habit. "There's beer out on the balcony, Earl. Can I get you one?" Joe asked. "Sure. Oh, I will come along." "Hey, Charlie, how it's going?" Charlie grinned and whistled. People turned to look. "Hey, Earl," someone called from across the room. Vroom? They squeezed their way past the other guests, past the apes and the sexy witches. The section of the sliding door gave way in a whoosh, and Zoe and Earl stepped out onto the balcony. A bonehead and a naked woman, the night air roaring and smoky cool. Another couple were out there. They are there too, murmuring privately. They were not wearing costumes. They smiled at Zoe and Earl. "Hi," said Zoe. She found the plastic foam cooler duck in and retrieved 2 beers. "Thanks," said Earl. His strawberry breast folded in wide dimple and dented as he twisted open the bottle. "Well," sighed Zoe anxiously, "she had to learn not to be afraid of a man the way in your childhood you learn not to be afraid of an earthworm or a bug." Often when she spoke to men at parties, she rushed things in her mind. As the men politely blathered on, she would fall in love, marry, then find herself in a bitter custody battle with him for the kids and hoping for reconciliation so that despite all his betrayals, she might no longer despise him. And, in the few minutes remaining, learn perhaps what his last name was and what he did for a living. Though probably there was already too much history between them. She would not blush turn away. "Evan tells me you're a history professor. Where do you teach?" "Just over the Indiana border into Illinois." He looked a little shocked. "I guess Evan didn't tell me that part." "She didn't?" "No." "Well, that's Eva for you. When we were kids, we both had speech impediments." "That can be thought," said Earl. One of his breasts was hidden behind his drinking arm, but the other shone low and pink, full as a strawberry moon. "Yes, well, it was not a total loss. We used to go to what we called teach peer review. For about 10 years of my life, I had to map out every sentences in my mind, way ahead before I said it. That was the only way I could get a coherent sentence out." Earl drank from his beer. "How did you that? How did you get through?" "I told a lot of jokes you know the lines to already. You can just say them. I love jokes and songs." Earl smiled. He had on lipstick a deep shade of red, but it was wearing off from the beer. "What's your favorite jokes?" My favorite jokes is probably, okay, alright. This guy goes into a doctor's office and..." "I think I know this one," interrupted Earl eagerly. He wanted to tell it himself. "A guy goes into a doctor's office and the doctor tells him he's got some good news and some bad news. That one right?" "I'm not sure," said Zoe. "This might be a different version. So that guy says, 'Give me the bad news first,' and the doctor says, 'Okay, you've got 3 weeks to live.' And the guy cries, '3 weeks to live? Doctor, what is the good news?' And the doctor says, 'Did you see that secretary out front? I finally fucked her.'" Joe frowned. "That's not the one you were thinking of?" "No," there was accusation in her voice. "Mine was different." "Oh," said Earl. He looked away and then back again. "What kind of history do you teach?" "I teach American, mostly 18th and 19th country in graduate school at bars. The pickup line was always, 'So what's your century?' Occasionally I teach a special them course," she added, "say, humor and personality in the White House. That's what my book's on." She thought of something someone once told her about bowerbirds, how they built elaborate structures before mating. "Your book's on humor?" "Yeah, and well, when I teach a theme course like that, I do all the centuries." "So, what's your century?" "All 3 of them." "Pardon?" The breeze glistened her eyes. Traffic revened beneath them. She felt tight and funny, like someone lifted in a heaven by mistake and then spurned. "Three There's only three. Well, four? Really? She was thinking of Jamestown and of the pilgrims coming here with buckles and which had to say their prayers. I'm a photographer, said Earl. His face was starting to gleam, his ruff smearing in the sunset beneath his eyes. Do you like that? Well, actually, I'm starting to feel it's a little dangerous. Really? Spending all your time in a dark room with that red light and all those chemicals? There's links with Parkinson's, you know. No, I didn't. I suppose I should wear rubber gloves, but I don't like to. Unless I'm touching it directly. I don't think of it as real. Said Joe. Alarm buzzed mid-light drove her. Sometimes when I have a cut or something, I feel the sting and think, shit, I was constantly and just hope. I don't like a rubber of the skin like that. Really? I mean the physical contact, that's what you want, or why bother? I guess, said Zoe. She wished she could think of a joke, something slow and deliberate with the end in sight. She thought of gorillas, how when they had been kept too long alone in a cage, they would smack each other in the head instead of mating. Are you in a relationship? Ollie suddenly blurted. Now, as we speak. Well, I mean, I'm sure you have a relationship to your work. A smile, a little one nestled in his mouth like an edge. She thought of those in parks, how when cities were under siege during world wars, people ate the animals. But I mean with a man. No, I'm not in relationship with a man. She rubbed her chin with her hand and could feel the warm bristly hair there. But my last relationship was with a very sweet man, she said. She made something up from Switzerland. He was a botanist, a wheat expert. His name was Jerry. I called him Jerry. He was so funny. You would go to the movies with him, and all he would notice was the plants. He would never pay attention to the plot. Once in a jungle movie, he started rattling off all these Latin names out loud. It was very exciting for him. She paused, caught her breath. Eventually, he went back to Europe too, to study the Edelweiss. She looked at Earl. Are you involved in a relationship with a woman? Earl shifted his weight and the creases in his body stocking changed, splintering outward like something broken. His pubic hair slid over to one hip, like a corsage on a salon girl. No, he said, clearing his throat. The steel hole in his underarms was inching down toward his biceps. I've just gotten out of a marriage that was full of bad dialogue like you want more space. I'll give you more space. Clown. Your basic three stocks. Zoe looked at him sympathetically. I suppose it's hard for love to recover after that. His eyes lit up. He wanted to talk about love, but I keep thinking love should be like a tree. You look at trees and they've got bumps and scars from tumors, infestations, what have you, but they were still growing. Despite the bumps and bruises, they are striped. Yeah, well, said Joe. Where I'm from, there are married or guy. Did you see that movie That by Number? Earl looked at her, a little lost. She was getting away from him. No, he said. One of his breasts had slipped under his arm, tucked there like a baguette. She kept thinking of trees, of parks, of people in wartime. Eating the zebra, she felt a stabbing pain in her abdomen. Won't some horse? The ovaries? Evan came pushing through the sliding door. She was smiling through her curlers were coming out, hanging bedraggled, bedraggled, bedraggled at the ends of her hair like Christmas decoration. Like food put out of for the birds, she thrust forward a plate of stuffed mushroom. "Are you asking for donation or giving them away?" said Earl brightly. He liked Evan, and he put his arms around her. "You know, I will be right back," said Zoe. "Oh," said Evan, looking concerned. "Right back? I promise." Zoe hurried inside, across the living room into the bedroom, to the adjoining bed. It was empty. Most of the guests were using the half bed near the kitchen. She flicked on the light and closed the door. The pain had stopped, and she didn't really have to go to the bathroom, but she stayed there anyway, resting in the mirror above the sink. She looked haggard beneath her bald head, violet gray showing under the skin like a plucked and poky bird. She leaned closer, raising her chin a little to find the bristly hair. It was there, at the end of the jaw, sharp and dark as a wire. She opened the medicine cabinet, pawed through it until she found some tweezers. She lifted her head again and poked at her face with the metal tips, grasping and pinching and missing. Outside the door, she could hear two people talking loud. They had come into the bedroom and were discussing something. They were sitting on the bed. One of them giggled in a false way. Zoe stepped again in her chin and it started to bleed a little. She pulled the skin tight along the jawbone, gripped the tweezers hard around what she hoped was the hair and tug, tug, touched. A tiny square of skin came away, but the hair remained blood bright at the root of it. Zoe clenched her teeth. "Come on," she whispered. The couple outside in the bedroom were now telling stories softly and loudly. There was a bounce and squeak of mattress and the sound of a chair being moved out of the way. Zoe aimed the tweezers carefully, pinched, pinched the pulled gently, and this time the hair came to with a slight twinge of pain and then a great float of relief. "Yeah," breathed Zoe. She grabbed some toilet paper and dabbed it at her chin. It came away spotted with blood, and so she tore off some more and pressed it hard until it stopped. Then she turned off the light, opened the door, and rejoined the party. "Excuse me," she said to the couple in the bedroom. They were the couple from the balcony, and they looked at her, a bit surprised. They had their arms around each other, and they were eating candy bars. Earl was still out on the balcony alone, and Zoe rejoined him there. "Hi," she said. He turned around and smiled. He had straightened his costume out a bit, though all the secondary sex characteristics seemed slightly dumped, destined to shift and flip and zip around again any moment. "Are you okay?" he asked. He had opened another beer and was chugging. "Oh, yeah, I just had to go to the bathroom," she paused. "Actually, I have been going to a lot of doctors recently." "What's wrong?" asked Earl. "Oh, probably nothing, but they are putting me through tests." She sighed. "I've had sonograms. I've had mammograms. Next week I'm going in for a candygram." He looked at her concerned. "I've had too many gram words." "Here, I save you this." He held out a napkin with two stuffed mushroom caps. They were cold and leaving oil marks on the napkin. "Thanks," said Zoe, and pushed them both in her mouth. "Watch," she said with her mouth full. "With my luck, it will be a gallbladder operation." Earl made a face. "So your sister's getting married?" he said, changing the subject. "Tell me, really, what do you think about love?" Lover, had not they done this already? I don't know, she thought doubtfully and swallowed. Alright, I will tell you what I think about love. Here is a love story. This friend of mine. You've got something on your chin, said Earl, and he reached over to touch. What? Said Joe, stepping back. She turned her face away and grabbed at her chin. A piece of toilet paper peeled off it, like tape. It is nothing, she said. It's nothing. Earl stared at her. At any rate, she continued, this friend of mine was this award-winning violinist. She traveled all over Europe and won competition. She made records, she gave concerts, she got famous, but she had no social life. So one day, she threw herself at the feet of this conductor she had a terrible crush on. He picked her up, scolded her gently, and sent her back to her hotel room. After that, she came home from Europe. She went back to her old hometown, stopped playing the violin, and took up with a local boy. This was in Illinois. He took her to some big ten bar every night to drink with his buddies from the team. He used to say things like, Katrina here likes to play the violin, and then he'd pinch her cheek. When she once suggested that they go home, he said, What, you think you are too famous for a place like this? Well, let me tell you something. You may think you are famous, but you are not famous. Famous to famouses. No one here's ever heard of you. Then he went up and bought a round of drinks for everyone but her. She got her coat, went home, and shot a bulb through her head. Earl was silent. That's the end of my love story, she said Zoe. You're not all like your sister. Oh, really? Said Zoe. The air had gotten colder, the wind singing minor and thick as dirty. No, he didn't want to talk about love anymore. You know, you should wear a lot of blue and white. Around your face, it would bring out your coloring. He reached an arm out to show her how the blue bracelet he was wearing might look against her skin, but she sweatered it away. Tell me, Earl, does the word fog mean anything to you? He stepped back away from her. Her shook his head in disbelief. You know, I just shouldn't try to go out with career women. You are, you are all stricken. A guy can really tell what life has done to you. I do better with women who have part-time jobs. Oh yes, said Zoe. She had once read an article entitled Professional Woman and the Demographics of Grief or no, it was a poem. If there were a lake, the moonlight would dance across it in conniptions. She remembered that line, but perhaps the title was The Empty House, Aesthetics or Burners, or maybe Space Gypsies, Girl in Academy. She had forgotten. Earl turned and leaned on the railing of the balcony. It was getting late. Inside, the party guests were beginning to leave. The sexy witches were already gone, live and learn. Earl murmured. Live and get dumb, replied Zoe. Beneath them on Lexington there were no cars, just the gold rush of an occasional cab. He leaned hard on his elbows, brooding. Look at those few people down there, he said. They look like bugs. You know how bugs are kept under control? They sprayed with bug hormones, female bug hormones. The male bugs get so crazy in the presence of his hormone. They were scraping everything in sight. Trees, rocks, everything but the female bugs. Population control. That's what's happening in this country, he said drunkenly. Hormones sprayed around and now men are scraping rocks. In the back, the magic marker line on his buttocks spread white, a sketchy black on a pink. Like a funny page, Joe came up, slow from behind, and gave him a shove. His arm slipped forward, off the railing, out over the street. Beer spilled out of his bottle. raining 20 stories down to the street. Hey, what are you doing? He said, whipping around. He stood straight and red-eyed and moved away from the railing, sidestepping. So, what the hell are you doing? Just kidding, she said. I was just kidding, but he gazed at her, appalled and frightened. His magic marker buttocks turned away now toward all of the town. A naked pseudo-woman with a blue bracelet at the wrist strapped out on a balcony with what? Really? I was just kidding, Joe shouted. The wine lifted the hair up of her head, skyward in spines behind the bone. If there were a lake, the moonlight would dance across it in convulsions. She smiled at him and wondered how she looked. Okay, guys, that's all from me. Thank you. I hope you will enjoy to watch this movie because there is so long duration, but it's okay. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.